So this is a Great Barrington Planning Board meeting for Thursday, July 13th, 2024. This meeting is available on Zoom and this meeting is being recorded. Which part do I have to read?
If anybody else wants to record, they need to notify the chair.
Oh, yes. If any of you are recording, you need to notify me. All right, okay, great. We'll move on then. So we are all here except for Jeremy. And Jackie is absent as well today. And do we have any Form As?
No Form As.
No Form As. We'll move on to the minutes of June 27th. Do we have a motion to approve as amended?
So moved.
Thank you, Jonathan. Do we have a second? A second by Malcolm. Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. All right, next item on our agenda is general discussion of the master plan. I'm curious, did anyone bring the master plan today? No. Okay, I have my copies. I think if we're gonna continue to talk about this, maybe we want to start bringing our copies. Does everyone have a copy? You have a virtual copy?
Yeah.
Okay, and is it like I annotate mine in the margin, so, okay.
Yeah. Me too.
So, we'll get our. So at the last meeting, we talked about kind of next steps being looking at some of the demographic information. And I guess, Chris, recognizing you have a lot on your plate, I didn't want to entirely throw that at you.
Yeah, yeah, with the Independence Day holiday and vacations and whatnot, I haven't turned to this and but later this month and August,
Do you
be able
have,
to turn back to this, do a little bit of data digging.
Yeah.
Do kind of an assessment or a re-exam of where we are. And maybe prepare this board and maybe the select board for a joint meeting sometime in the fall.
yeah, like September-ish, October-ish?
Yeah,
somewhere
leave
there?
that to you and Steve to figure out.
Yeah, I want to make some notes about that. I got on the US Census page, which if you guys haven't explored, it's like a data rabbit hole that you just like disappear down into. And it was interesting. You know, you can select our town as a township, but you can also then sort of drill a little deeper and get into the two, what are they called, census derived
Census
designated places, yes. And so there's two of those, there's one for the sort of downtown, sort of core developed area for Barrington and similarly for Housatonic. And so you can kind of get the more drilled down information, which is nice because that's kind of our quote unquote urban centers.
Do they have historical data?
So you can query the various censuses. So I was just looking at the most recent information, just trying to see like where we are in relationship to what's in our 2013 plan. Is that something you want us to help pull together?
No, I mean, you certainly can if you want, but those are, you know, I have all the tables from the old plan, and you can just add new rows and calculate changes since.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's easily done.
Okay. One thing that jumped out at me just looking at chapter 2 in our master plan, where we're talking about sort of our people and our economy and our land, kind of background things. Was we don't really seem to have any reference about short-term rentals, and I think that might be an issue that's come up since the last plan was put together, and I don't know if is that data we may be able to find, Chris?
Short-term
Rentals, like a number of units that are short-term rentals. We speak in the master plan as to what % of housing units are seasonal or second homes. And I wonder if that needs a little more color related to short-term rentals.
Yeah, short-term rentals is something that we could explore. What exactly is called a short-term rental, depending on whether you use once listed in the town's database or on Airbnb, or we just have to be clear in what data we're using.
How many are registered now? Is the town making any money on
We didn't put short-term rentals as an issue on the agenda, so Chris didn't do any prepping there, and he knows a lot of stuff, but that one off the top of his head, I'd be really impressed.
But it is, yeah, I think there's things like that weren't discussed or explored or anticipated in the last plan.
Mhm.
You know, the changing economy in general, including the sharing economy, short-term rentals.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah,
All of those things should be discussed as part of the master plan update.
the other thing that I thought was interesting was that the trend on population was described as trending downward, and by 2020 likely to be approximately 6,900. The 2010 census data that was reported was 7,100. So that was the data used as of the master plan, and the 2020 is 7,172, so it's more like held steady,
it?
which is, I think, interesting.
Yeah, that was.
It was very slightly. And then the other thing was that,
during COVID, the census.
Went up by 68 people.
It was right at the beginning of COVID,
Yeah.
April 1st, 2020.
Yeah.
Census day.
yeah. And then also that we're actually getting really much older as a town.
It's not getting personal.
Present company.
No. We have a session actually.
Why does she look at me when she says that?
We're all collectively.
You're not
we're
that
all
old,
getting
you're
older.
shorter than me.
So I found that like a little bit interesting. Are we an AARP certified community?
I am familiar with that, but I think that's a designation that you seek.
You do seek it, yeah, yeah.
We have not.
Yeah, maybe we should. I don't know.
I think we need more primary care doctors to do that.
I don't know, maybe we'll look into it. And then the other thing that wasn't touched upon that's in the census data, but I didn't see it in the master plan, was percent of people that work from home. So it's like unspecified employment, but work from home.
That's huge. That's changed.
It says 20% in the current census.
We discussed it in the last plan, I remember, because, and we had done surveys specific to that, and Great Barrington had a fairly substantial
Remote work.
remote work
Okay.
situation. I don't think we're great, that might be more in the economics section.
Okay, I haven't gotten that far into it.
And a lot of those are second home. too.
And then I was trying to think of what other studies we've done since the master plan was put together, and it seemed like quite a few, right? So there's like the housing needs assessment.
Housing needs assessment is a good example. The complete streets prioritization.
Oh, that's
plan
true.
was
Yeah.
completed. The hazard mitigation
Is there a new one?
plan was
How is the one
completed.
on the one page?
It's the current.
It is the current?
And we did a food system study. And obviously we update capital plans every year.
Mhm.
It's like that.
Yeah, so in terms of like, if we're thinking about an update, just to like pull in the relevant parts or
Yep.
include by citation or something by reference.
Mhm.
Jackie had sent me some notes on what she was thinking as well. She apologizes that she can't be here. Let's see. So Jackie, her question about demographic information was, Is the demographic information something we want to know regarding changes in Great Barrington since 2013? In order to determine whether there are significant enough change to warrant a rewrite of the plan, or if we're just proposing an update of the plan. So what's your experience in updating plans, like the difference between having an appended section that is an update versus like this issue is so huge, we must rewrite the plan?
Well, I think as I hinted to the board at our last meeting, it might not just be about demographics alone. You know, the things like the changing economy, changing ways of working, changing ways of getting around. Some things that we dealt with last time, that we talked about last time, that are still abiding. I mean, there's always parking problems. There's always brownfields to deal with.
Restroom problems.
You know, there's, you know, housing is still an issue, real estate costs, still an issue relative to income, aging, still an issue. Other things we may have dealt with, we may have more committee capacity now with the CPA committee, with an affordable housing trust, et cetera. We probably have less capital financial capacity than we did now, particularly looking at projections. For example, building a new school.
That's kind of a drain.
Dealing with tonic water in one way or the other. So the capital needs on the horizon are a lot different and more significant than they were 10, 15 years ago.
You left out the bridges.
And I didn't even mention the bridges. So I think taken together all of the things, including demographics and looking at what the capacity and resources we have for those problems, looking at conservation land that has been conserved over the last 10 or 15 years. All of those things have changed in some way. Are they significant enough to that the basis for looking at our priorities has changed? Possibly. So it may require a whole new, it may be a good idea to look at the plan with a fresh perspective with all of those things that have changed. And that's something that I think that the two boards should discuss.
Okay.
As I was looking through VRPC documents, there wasn't much specific to Great Barrington. There was a lot of, you know, data, the county. But I read across the document that I don't remember at all, in a 2021 rapid recovery plan, which I know you were part of developing, and that has a lot of things in it. The actions items for the town, a lot of it, most of it had to do with economic development.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's been a lot of work done on this, and that should be input to the master plan for
Yeah,
sure.
Great.
That's a good one. You said that one's focused on economic development?
It's called local rapid recovery
Yeah,
planning.
it was funded by the state, and there were only 5 towns in the county that actually had a document created for it.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh,
Isn't the Livability and Sustainability Committee part of that, Chris?
I'm sorry.
Wasn't the Livability and Sustainability Committee part of that?
Yeah, well, that was a committee that was created and now doesn't exist. It wasn't part of the local recovery plan. No.
I thought they like hosted the events and promoted the events with that committee.
You could be right. I
Well,
could be.
The cultural district and the cultural council were involved. But they don't mention Chamber of Commerce, the cultural district, they mention that, but they don't mention the committee. So
Just in terms of studies, like I poked around on the town website and tried to look like in the ribbons on the one side. Is there a central digital repository on the webpage for like just general documents that the town has produced? Or is it best to look sort of page by page, committee by committee,
Yeah, it's
more the latter?
kind of committee by committee,
Okay,
department by department.
okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we can all like take the committees that we engaged with and just take a quick look and see what other studies are there. I hate to have good work that was done, in the last
Yeah.
few years get missed, so. And clearly we don't know all the things that are out there, so. Pedro, you probably do, you do a lot of readings. Is there like a tree document, like an urban forestry plan or anything like that?
They want towns?
Yeah,
They wanna do,
yeah, and do we have an open space plan for Gratian?
we do,
We do,
which we will also be updating over the course of the next 12 months.
okay,
The one we have is also a 2013 vintage.
okay.
Chris, do you think that maybe, for our next meeting, we can get some data on building permits? And how can we get data on how land use patterns have changed in town? Or what has changed since 2013?
Well, building permitted data is easily gotten, so. We can pull some.
Is that publicly accessible or is that something that you have to do?
I don't know, I think
Hmm.
public, maybe,
Public record.
yeah, it might be aggregated. We report it to like state 911 and other state departments, so it exists. But it can be easily produced.
And isn't there a land use code in that assessor's data that we can
Yeah,
query?
yeah, so there's, I guess in terms of land use, there's a few ways of looking at it. And we did both in the master plan in that was published in 2013. We looked at it from both an assessor's land use code, like what is coded as government or single family or industrial, or agricultural. So there's that code, which gives you the, if you look at that on a map, an entire parcel might be coded industrial. But maybe it's a 10-acre parcel, but only a half acre is used, the rest is forest. So it gives you from a value or tax base perspective. But then we did a second analysis with BRPC, looking at it kind of like how a bird's eye, like, oh, this is actually what a bird would see, only a small portion is industrial, the rest is forest. So there's two ways of looking at it. The latter is harder to provide to you, but we can do it. It's a useful exercise.
I'd be interested in, I've always been fascinated by this number, this 2,900 acres left of developable land in Great Barrington.
We like, where is it?
I'd be interested to see if that's changed,
Mhm.
right? Because
Right.
if some of, the majority of that land was supposedly unbuildable, right? But it was unreachable unless somebody had a lot of money for the road and the rest of it. So I'd like to know if we can update that number or somehow study that amount of land that was left.
That'll take some work, and it would be part of a master plan update or rewrite. Because it takes time and money to look at it. So part of it depends on how the zoning regulations change. So if setbacks got smaller or bigger, then developable land might increase or decrease. So there's a lot of factors that goes into what's developable or not, including wetlands, floodplains, steep slopes, but also zoning regulations. So that's a really in-depth analysis, which should be done as part of the update.
One other thing, Brandon, that struck me here is in the climate chapter.
Mm-hmm.
This is a topic that's become interesting to me in the last few months.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the way that we've developed our lives around a sort of fossil fuel economy and cheap energy economy. And how the idea that, we all tend to think about the climate and climate change from the perspective of reducing energy or producing alternative energy. But there's no mention in here on how we can actually affect the physical nature of the way that we use energy and the way that we live our lives and how that can maybe somehow be addressed.
And so in terms of like,
Land use, basically. Right, 'cause I'm thinking the way, it's the kind of this topic they call it carbon form, and the way that the fossil fuel economy. Or the way that the built environment was shaped by the fossil fuel economy, right? So distances between things kind of greater, lot sizes increase,
Mhm.
all of that kind of stuff. So I wonder if there is some interest on this board to add some of that language and to maybe devise some strategies on how we can address that moving into the future. And, immediately just things like densifying the urban core, right? And making that,
It's,
Yeah. And just putting more emphasis on preserving what's out there, reducing the distances to all of our, that kind of stuff.
mhm. So it sounds to me like you might want to see like a climate thread that kind of cross through the whole document, because it is hard to kind of just put it in one little bubble and say these are the climate issues.
Well, there is a section on climate,
Mhm.
and but I do think, through the land use section of this index, I think it would be
Mhm.
worthwhile to have that fairly moving through there.
Anybody else been exploring chapters and have any other like data collection things we should be thinking about? Jackie has dug into the public participation plan that was put together, and she says it's impressive, Chris. And she does not think we should reinvent the wheel. She thinks we should just simply redeploy it. So that's, I think, kind of one of our next steps would be to start engaging public participation. So I have not spent any time looking at it, so we may want
Are we
to.
gonna do that before we meet with the select board, or
I think it's worthwhile to have some engagement.
before we decide what our strategy is?
Well, I think let's discuss, but my initial thought was talk to existing boards and committees
Yeah.
that are on the to-do list, in the to-do list group. And then expand those conversations to existing boards and committees that are new since the master plan was released. Like, you were obviously formed as part of a committee because of some issue that's important in the community, right? And just listen to kind of what their mission and objectives and goals are. And then from there, go to the public. I think that intermediate step, we haven't taken that yet, and I think that's, something we realize it's hard to connect to those committees sometimes, just given limited schedules.
Yeah, I mean, the last time we went to the committees, we asked them, what the status is of the things that they were signed. Maybe the next question is, what would you like to see in the new master plan? And do you think that we
Or-
can just revise your section of the master plan, or could we rewrite it?
So maybe there's a little, I like that idea, but maybe there's a little like lead in, like, here's the section of the master plan that pertains to you.
Yeah.
And, because there may be committee members that don't have any background, and then there may be, committee members that were part of the master plan.
Well, I know when I went to the historic committees, I went down through all the items that were assigned to that committee, so they should be familiar with what was there, and at the time, I came up with new ideas. I mean, you can't stop people from thinking. And when you spout off of those things, then they come up with things that are new.
Mhm.
So it's.
Do you get the sense that they're different enough to? Guess I was, when you were saying that, I was thinking about that I had, these couple sections that I went through don't really seem to garner enough difference. Raise enough difference to rewrite the whole thing.
Yeah, and.
It's like sections is what you're talking
And I
about.
think that's where we need to, maybe in our next round of committee work, we can dive into that and on a section by section basis. And then we take that to the select board. Then we can say, okay, well, here's, should we rewrite or revise?
Chris, do we have a good like email list of all the committee chairs?
I believe so.
Okay. What if we started with like a written communication? Cause
Yeah.
I'm worried it being summer that committees may not be meeting and,
You're right.
what do you think, Jonathan? Would you recall from last time how were committees engaged?
I think they're representatives of committees
Mhm,
rather than committees themselves
mhm,
that actually
yeah,
participate.
yeah. Is it too clunky to try and get a whole committee involved?
Probably. Could well be.
Mhm.
Um,
So I'll take a stab at drafting a letter that we could kind of send out broadly, and I'll bring it to the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
be great.
I mean, I kind of feel that we're, until we get the select board to say, yeah, go ahead, but we kind of still in the preliminary stage.
Well,
Well, I mean, I've been to the select board already,
I
so,
mean, I know it's our thing, but we do have to build consensus behind it before we do it.
in terms of update and changes, absolutely, I agree with you. The select board is fully aware that we are embarking on this revisitation of the status of the master plan. And from what I could gather, you know, everyone was fully supportive,
I think we're also gonna need some money too, right? I mean,
at some point,
we
yeah,
need funding for this.
yeah, yeah.
And if we're gonna dig into data, we're gonna ask BRPC digging for us, or we're gonna ask somebody else to.
Are there?
No, it's a good point, Malcolm. I think the importance of involving the select board in your thinking about this is probably focused mostly on money and staff capacity.
Yeah.
If boards have different priorities than the planning board. And, for example, the planning department's attention is elsewhere. Then writing a master plan would be a different endeavor. So that's a nice way of saying, I think you need support in terms of staff and budget capacity. Make sure that all of those resources align so that you can actually undertake this effort.
Is the state offer any grant funding opportunities to update?
Yep.
Grants? And is there a periodic cycle to that?
Yes.
So-
So for example, we just applied for funds to help update the open space plan.
Mhm.
Sorry, what?
We just applied for funds to help update the open space plan. So it's usually about every June, the applications are due.
Mhm. Okay. So it'd be nice if we were in a position, if you say, end of the year or first quarter next year to know if we wanted to make an application.
Let's see, what master plan help
Does it?
get us grants?
Oh, I wish it was worth money. No, I mean, obviously, the having a plan helps get grants to implement sections of the plan.
Yeah.
Does it help to get money to write a new plan? That'd be nice.
All right. Okay.
What does help is having the knowledge that the decision-making boards are aligned in wanting to do this.
Mhm.
And that tells a granting agency or organization that, oh, yes, the town is serious about this. Their support is fully behind this. If we fund this, we know they're gonna do it. So that's important.
All right, so I'll come back next meeting with a letter. Is there anything else master plan wise we wanna go over right now? No? Is the heat getting to everybody? Is it getting stuffy in here? No, okay. Do we have town planner support?
No, nothing really to report this
All right,
week.
do we have the board or subcommittee updates, issues or concerns? Pedro?
None.
Malcolm?
No.
Jim? Jonathan? Wow, okay, let's
How about
see,
Brand?
Lake Mansfield.
Yeah, we're done.
So Lake Mansfield is having are we officially having a welcome event on An unofficial welcome event?
There will be some ice cream on Sunday.
And Lake
If
Mansfield.
if it doesn't go quickly or melt too quickly,
You are all welcome to park in my driveway and we can walk there, so you don't have to.
Oh, you want a bike?
You can ride your bicycle, yes, yeah, if you've not been over there, I encourage you to go by.
I haven't, but I heard it's fantastic, so,
I think it's
yeah. So
really gonna be great, and over 4th of July weekend, it was, it was hot, obviously. There were, both local people and visitors there enjoying the space, there was a lot of people, young people swimming, a lot of children swimming.
Someone said there was overflow parking.
There is not officially overflow parking. There were more cars in the space than the space is designed for. The space was designed
It
for
overflowed.
The parking overflow, but there wasn't overflow parking.
Yeah. That's why I was gonna say, if you can walk there, you should. And the path is great. If you've not been on the path, it's really nice to walk on. It's nice and smooth. It's great for people using, mobility aids and little kids just learning to ride their bicycles, and so it's really nice. So hopefully you can get over there and take a look at it. All right,
Open for swimming?
pardon?
Is the beach open?
It
for
is. The
swimming?
beach is open for swimming.
I read
Yes.
an article somewhere that it was closed.
There has been
for
that
undisclosed
rumor.
reason.
Yeah, and unfortunately that is, the rumor is false.
It was closed for construction.
And Prospect Lake was closed because of E. coli, I
This
guess.
was recent, this was after the 4th of July week.
Oh,
Yeah, no, not that I'm aware of since then. There
Water
haven't been any water quality issues or anything, so it is
the
open.
lifeguard staffing has been difficult to get going, but people can swim. If they want, yeah.
All right, citizen speak, anything else? Is there anyone online?
No, well, I think that's it.
Nothing for Eileen? No hand raised, no
No
cat
hand.
paw raised? All right, then we will adjourn at 6:32.
Thank you.